Welcome, friends,
to the How-To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
And I'm Uncle Dan.
I'm Uncle Doug.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world. Nothing? Okay, things work differently now.
Never fear, that's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields,
we're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, you only get the one that we know of, so you'd better make the most of it.
Wahoo! Guys.
Oh, boy.
Once more unto the breach we throw ourselves in the service of our listeners, our patrons, and the world at large.
The breach or the britches?
The
one
britches.
of the two.
Right in the Hey, how was your week? Can I tell you about britches?
What you got?
I tell you something that happened this week because I just thought it really it encapsulates me completely. This incident. So, I was in a big meeting, big boardroom. And I was supposed to give a big presentation, big video presentation, PowerPoint thing. And I sit back in my chair as everybody's kind of getting settled and cross my legs. And I drop my hand in my lap. And I somehow hit myself in the balls so hard, I couldn't breathe for like a full minute. How does that happen? I just 6 inches of movement in my hand, and I nearly fainted. I nearly threw up. That
Ladies
was my
and
week.
gentlemen, your audio uncles are not the smartest of people. Nope. It's just, we can't guarantee that, but we love you.
And now my enemies out in Radio Land know that my Achilles heel is my balls.
which was not hard to actually determine. But
That's unusual.
What they didn't know is that they don't have to do anything. You'll hit yourself there eventually.
I got it. I got you.
You've met the enemy, and it is you.
That's fully me. So we started a few minutes late on that particular presentation. But anyway, fellas, that aside, here we are. Episode 123, 123. It's easy as ABC.
That's right.
I think. Yeah.
Do, re, mi, which I am going to talk about, actually, when we get to my little subject, which is, it's a woo, and it's just literally this.
Yes, it is an audio format woo. So everybody's get. You're gonna get healed.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'm going to talk about some mysterious, moist Mormon mayhem with baptisms for the dead.
Thanks for saying moist in there. That's
You're
good.
welcome.
Yeah, and I am going to help you kick your troublesome Christian aunt right in the baby maker with some Nazi facts. So get ready.
Hit yourself in the crotch in the process.
Get ready for some Nazi facts. Here we come. It's this week brought to you by Manischewitz for all of your kosher meal needs.
Manischewitz, I did not see that coming.
I did not see that coming. So, all right, let's do it.
Boom.
Uncle Doug.
Uncle Mark.
You know, it's everybody's got a silverware drawer.
Yup.
I think, and you keep all sort of things in there, all kind of things.
Yeah, there's that drawer. There's that junk drawer. That's not even a silverware drawer. It's just like where all your buttons are.
That's true.
You guys don't keep your buttons?
I keep them in a mason jar, like red-blooded Americans. You piece of shit.
How fancy
communist.
you are!
Yeah. Dan, what do you have in your silverware drawer?
Well, I have I keep all my woo in my silverware drawer. So
smart thinking.
I've got my jade egg in there and various and sundry things.
Is that what you call your vagina? Your silverware drawer?
Yes, exactly. that's the old throw your flatware on in there. Let's make something happen. No, I was doing some research this week on something new for the silverware drawer.
Yeah.
And Jesus fucking Christ, you guys.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
That was his Hebrew middle name, by the way. I think people think we're being flippant, but we're not. We're being Bible accurate.
People think that his middle name started with an H, but it's actually, if you go to the original Hebrew.
Well, in Hebrew starts with an H.
That's right.
Yeah,
exactly. And you have to read it from right to left. Mm-hmm. Anyway, here's the thing. You find a bit of woo, a bit of crazy out there in the world, and you think to yourself, that's interesting. I'm going to go research that. So you jump onto that old information superhighway, and you start poking around. And at first, it's easy. You find a bunch of silly websites proclaiming in badly worded prose the virtues and benefits of this particular woo. But as you poke around, you see a word that you don't understand in this context, or a phrase that they seem to think you will obviously know, but that makes no sense to you. So you jump to another tab and you look up that real quick. But that just leads to a whole other kettle of nonsense with 10 other tendrils of phrases that seem to mean something entirely different from what you know them to mean. So down you go, sliding haplessly down a series of topics like a lubed-up water park enthusiast until you've entirely lost the plot of what you were originally researching altogether.
Yeah.
Here's what I know for sure. One reason it is so fucking hard to talk to woo believers about their woo is that they have built walls, high and fortified, of nonsense language.
Woo walls.
So thick and that's right, they're woo walls.
Yeah.
And they are so impenetrable that there is simply no way to get through it. Oh, sure, you could carefully and persistently hack away at one small segment of their thicket, pointing out how each of their premises is based on other premises, which are based on other premises, none of which have an origin point grounded in anything more than somebody said so. But by the time you've cleared enough brush to try to show them that there's no root, they will have refilled everything you cleared out with more brush.
Yeah.
It's never ending. So, it goes into one of these things where it's like but you were just talking about light, which is an electromagnetic wave, and now you're talking about sound, which is a percussive wave. They're totally different. And they say, so you admit that everything in the universe is all waves. And you're like, they're not even related. Light can travel through space, but sound has to be perpetuated through a medium. Perpetuated through a medium? That's far out, man. I'm going to have to start using that. And boom, that person's blog goes viral with a new theory about how we're all connected to the universe because something perpetuated through a medium, which is understood to apply now to acupuncture and crystals and dream catchers equally. Oh, and because a psychic can be called a medium, that word is now, and that word is in the new phrase, even though it's an entirely different usage of that word, it applies double to that.
Right.
It all comes together.
It all comes together.
And measles outbreak.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And the really infuriating thing is that nobody, including the great gurus of woo, is expected to actually understand what any of it means.
Right. They're just asking questions, man.
As long as you know enough of the language, you can sufficiently obfuscate the topic such that even you are fooled by your own unintelligible ramblings. And with all of that said, I give you tuning forks.
No.
Yes, tuning forks? Yes, tuning forks. Those little metal doodads that have a rod that you hold, which forks into two parallel rods, and then when you strike it, it plays a specific note.
Huh.
They are, apparently, depending on who you ask, going to cure everything someday.
Okay.
So
everything.
Like literally everything. Once you find the exact right, perfect note, it's magic and it'll cure all the things.
The healing note? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. The other note will make you poop, but this one will just make you heal.
The other note is called coffee.
I've discovered that note quite by accident.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. It was an embarrassing day on the escalator.
We will be playing it later on in the show. We'll see. The world over, people will find what the brown note does. Anyway, so this whole journey started with a friend of mine posting a fun little video on Facebook. It was a demonstration of the physics of sympathetic resonance. Now, I took physics in college, and I loved it, so this was right up my alley. Just briefly, sympathetic resonance is a thing that happens when one thing that resonates at a certain frequency, like the string of a guitar or violin, for example, becomes excited when another thing that operates at the same frequency is played. And we're already in trouble because I used the word frequency, which is the free space on the woo word bingo card. To the wooers out there, frequency means everything and nothing. So just quickly, here I am referring to how fast something vibrates. In sound, the faster a thing vibrates, i.e. the higher the frequency, the higher the pitch of the note that it produces. So 440 cycles per second produces the note A. Double that to 880, and you get A, but 1 octave up.
All right.
That's the basics of tone production in sound. What we're talking about now only applies to sound. None of this shit necessarily applies to any other kind of wave, even though those waves could be said to have a frequency as well. So we have to get that all very, very clear.
Right.
So back to sympathetic resonance. This is how a singer can break a crystal glass with their voice, for example. If they sing the exact note that glass naturally vibrates at, a.k.a. the note that you would hear if you tapped the glass with a knife, and they sing it loud enough, meaning with enough amplitude, that then the glass will begin resonating with their voice. The resonance makes it start vibrating at that frequency, and if it vibrates too much, the glass structure cannot withstand it, and it breaks.
Okay.
Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. I don't know how well I'm explaining any of this. I am not a science educator. That is not my thing. And I just realized I'm down my own rabbit hole right now. So I'm sorry. I promise I'll loop it back. In the YouTube video I watched, the guy had a setup where one tuning fork is mounted on a block of wood on a table, and a ping pong ball is dangled from a string above it and set so that it is just barely touching that tuning fork. Mm-hmm. Then another tuning fork, which is tuned to the same note as the first one, is struck next to it, but they don't touch, and the ping pong ball starts going crazy, bouncing higher and higher off the seemingly inert fork. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. One tuning fork is struck, the sound makes the other tuning fork vibrate, which bounces the ball. Physics of sound.
Yeah.
Well,
sound waves.
On that Facebook thread, I happened to see that somebody had posted a picture of some tuning forks and a very long comment starting with the following, quote, I benefit greatly from using the earth one, which is on the right. It cuts through the sound of electricity for me, and earth brings energy to organs, so therefore I use it on certain meridians and acupuncture points to help assist in moving stagnant energy.
Please tell me that this person is in no way responsible for my safety.
I guarantee you they are in some way. I don't know who this person is. I don't, this is a friend of a friend sort of thing. But there you have it. In just the first 2 sentences of this steaming pile of woo, one of our listeners just got bingo. Or all of them did. Right. Because guess what? Energy is the free square in the woo bingo card. Wait, did I say it was frequency before? Well, it is. Because when every word means whatever you want, all the squares are free.
Everybody gets a bingo.
It's bingo for you, and you get a bingo, and you get a bingo. Look, the comment went on to...
that, by the way, was the poo note. Thanks, Doug.
You did it.
Yeah.
The comment went on to explain that the green tuning fork in their collection was Earth, and the gold one was Ohm. For example, I'm going to continue with their quote. Quote, for example, using Earth on kidney 1 while connecting Ohm to my heart. Our organs speak to each other, but we have miscommunications going on, obviously. So supporting organs helps support energy movement within the body to move by learning to communicate again.
Okay.
Well, obviously, right?
Yeah.
No word as to how playing a single tone and touching that, presumably to the outside of your body, because you can't actually touch stuff to your heart, helps your organs, quote, communicate.
Well, you can just once.
Right, yes. You can do it.
You can ram something into your chest.
It's really not
one time.
It's not a great idea.
It's going to be in your obituary for sure.
If you're going to do something with your heart, do a tuning fork. Why not?
Yeah.
Just sharpen the one end of it. But that's the great thing about woo talk. You just get to say it. You never have to explain or justify it. So I went to the web for a better understanding of the claims that people make about how tuning forks could affect health. The slip and slide began. It started with different kinds of tuning forks, reviews of different sets of forks that you could get. Some were a standard octave. Some were a chakra set of 7 forks, tuned, for your chakras.
Right.
Then there was the 11 fork set, tuned, I shit you not, to the tune of the 8 planets, as well as Pluto, the sun, and the moon. How do they know what note Pluto makes? Well, you try finding an explanation of that, because I sure as fuck couldn't. Then there were the solfeggio tuned forks. Wait, I thought to myself, I know the word solfeggio. That's the way of learning musical intervals by applying syllables to each note, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Remember that from the musical there?
Yep.
I don't know how that applies here. Well, somebody apparently heard that someone in ancient Asia used solfege somewhere along the line, and if it's good enough for ancient Asia, even if you have no idea what it is, it must be better than chemo. So, here's a quote from, a website. Quote, solfeggio frequencies make up the 6-tone scale believed to have been used in ancient sacred music.
Oh, God.
Great, right?
Bingo.
Again, what actually seems to be happening is that people will sell you a set of blank number of tuning forks and then justify that number just with whatever woo talk happens to coincide with it.
And can I just rain on the parade here a little bit?
Sure.
You know what happened to all the practitioners of ancient spiritual music?
They all lived forever because they had
died.
magic?
They fucking died.
Oh, shit.
They're all dead.
They died, and they died badly.
Except for the 3 Nephites who are using tuning forks to this day to survive forever.
To change tires in Fillmore.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Listen, the fact is that unless they're dealing in quarter tones, which I promise they're not, there are only 12 notes on a standard scale, so that's kind of the limit. So they just come up with a few that sound interesting in combination, and they tell you why it's magical. The idea is that if you strike the fork, then you place it on the body at the site of an organ, or at a chakra, or at a meridian, or, wherever it hurts.
Or
and then,
in a sphincter, your business, no judgment.
Right. Do
Yeah.
it wherever you want.
Yeah.
It heals you, or it connects your organs, or it aids in the flow of your energy, or it assists stagnant chi. Hell, you don't even have to touch it to the body. Yeah, no, these are all quotes. Everything that I'm doing here, I read somewhere. Hell, listen, you don't even have to touch it to your body. You just hearing the tone is just as effective. I'll let another super reputable website explain. You guys, okay, wait. Sorry, everybody. Crack your necks, put on your seatbelts.
According to Dr. Website.
That's right.
Yes.
And all of these websites do cite, reputable scientists with a quote that doesn't really refer to what they're talking about.
Yes,
and
it's a problem, yes.
And then they're like, haha, see, real physicists agree with me. And this is that's not what that guy said, though. Here we go. Brace yourselves. Resounding right to the last molecule of sound, as the sound filtrates through your ears on a subtly powerful level, creating a subtle vibration with your vagus nerve, which in turn is connected to each of your organs. All of your organs have cells which have trillions of molecules, which have an infinity amount of atoms. Atoms are 99.9999% space. However, that space has vibration and energy present. So on a subtle, energetic, vibrational level, when you listen to sound, you are tapping into your quantum space blending with the universe quantum space.
Oh my God.
This may not sit well with some scientists out there, but we are speaking about the most subtle vibrational energy and our connection to our divine core.
Okay.
That's a random word generator.
Gwyneth Paltrow and Deepak Chopra just came together right now.
They
Exactly.
got in a head-on collision on Beverly Boulevard in that moment right there.
That is,
The Hollywood Woo Super Collider just engaged.
Yeah. I just summoned a demon, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
By speaking those words out loud.
Yeah.
Because look, the more I dug, the deeper into the nothing I fell.
Yeah.
At one point, I found myself having to look up phi, the mathematical irrational number that defines the so-called golden ratio. Why was I looking up phi? because some shitbird on a website was claiming that different ratios of tones related to the Fibonacci sequence, and that something 8 notes in an octave and 13 notes in a full scale, and something 8 divided by 13 is 0.61538, which approximates phi, which it doesn't. Phi is approximately 1.61803, and that's a million miles away from 0.6 in mathematics.
Right.
They're nothing.
Right.
What the fuck?
Mathematics is not kind of a seat of the pants discipline, right?
You don't get to approximate. You don't get to like claim math is on your side and then be like, approximately.
It's close.
Dan, you're worked up. I'm prescribing 6 minutes of C flat on your third eye.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I need it. I'm putting it in my sphincter. Look, the point is that it's impossible to tell you what tuning forks are meant to do in the woo world because there's no consensus and no backing to anybody's theories. You can just use them alone, or you can add them to your acupuncture or your Reiki protocol. Just get some, make tones, and then apply liberally.
Well, you know, Dan, when we talked, it's the same thing here, which is why woo is just so fucking infuriating. I think you talked about crystals many episodes back. I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
And just like these tuning forks, they're comparing them to medicine, right? Crystals are medicine.
Yeah.
So, you know, the idea, you go into a crystal shop and just take whatever medicine you want. Go to the tuning fork shop and take whatever medicine. Like, imagine telling someone to go to a pharmacy and it's just like, you know what? One pill's as good as another. Just fucking take them and you'll be great. Like, it's fucking insane. Like, if these things actually have some efficacy, you don't tell people to put the A sharp on their patella because you'd kill them.
Oh,
it's bullshit.
Why would you need a tuning fork? Just sing A sharp at you.
Right. And
listen, listeners, all of you, I'm healing you now. I think that's earth. Or
if you've lived
or
more
whatever.
than a few days on this earth, you have been every sound frequency probably imaginable has vibrated at you. Right?
Everyone that you can hear.
All the medicine.
Yeah, exactly. And you get it all the time.
You get it all the time.
Oh my God! I'll leave us with what my commenter friend, the commenter on my friend's post said before they mysteriously erased their comments because I guess it was too much magic for the world to know about.
Right.
Quote: I have these on me all the time now, even in my car.
Oh no!
A great little tool to assist through whatever protocols we choose. I actually have brought plants back to life as well as using them. Plants back to life as well using them. The protocol is different, though, on everyone. Also, if anyone uses it, it's strongly suggested to always close and open with Om. Hope this helps someone.
Well, it helped
Jesus
us.
Christ.
Oh, my God. I just need to sit in a room with some tones now.
Boy, resurrecting plants has got to be the worst X-Men of all.
Resurrecting plants
often
with notes.
Yeah.
One
He can
note.
talk to corn. Well, that is something else, Dan.
Yeah. You're welcome, everybody.
Yeah. Let's
go out there
vibrate
and-
on out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on. Hey, Uncle Mark.
Yes. How are you?
I'm good. I want to talk about some of our weirdest swimming experiences.
Well, I can go on for days, but
I know. Well, the two of you, I shouldn't have even said the word swimming with the two of you.
We've managed not to feud about our swimming past for like several
For
episodes.
several
Please, God,
episodes.
not again.
We were doing so well.
This is such a fragile piece.
So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to plop us all into a pool not big enough for either of you to compete in. Uncle Doug, do you want to help us out here?
I would love to.
Okay.
We've picked on the Mormon Church quite a bit on this show, and to be fair, it's only because the church richly deserves it. And a lot of the fun we make stems from the essential and intrinsic strangeness of the religion. At its heart, Mormonism is a Protestant millennial cult of personality built on racism, misogyny, and lies, that's morphed into a tax-exempt financial services and real estate holding company that runs on teen suicide.
Like you
That
do.
it sounds harsh, but it's true.
Yeah.
They are a peculiar people.
And proudly so at one point.
Yep.
Yeah.
But in the last several decades, the Mormon Church has endeavored mightily to distance itself from its most egregious practices in order to strike a more kind of mainstream image. So polygamy and racial segregation are the most obvious examples. More modern PR initiatives will be familiar to some, such as "And I'm a Mormon," that ad campaign. And, of course, more recently, President Russell the Muscle Nelson's admonition against using the word Mormon.
Right, exactly.
So,
they literally invested like
millions.
probably tens or even possibly hundreds of millions of dollars.
I'd say at least tens of millions. Yeah.
In making sure that the whole world had a positive association with the word Mormon.
Yeah.
And then one guy comes along and is like, we're not allowed to use that word anymore. That's a pejorative.
And let's be honest, this guy is at best a temp.
Yeah.
Well, they all are. When you start your job at 93, everybody's a temp.
Right.
So
Don't buy any green bananas if you become prophet of the church. That's all I'm saying.
In spite of all this, there remains kind of a central weirdness to the Mormon faith that they have not yet managed to distance themselves from, and that is the Mormon temple ceremonies. Mm-hmm. As all of our ex-Mo listeners know, there are several bizarre rituals that take place in every Mormon temple around the world. Upon completion of these rituals for oneself, Mormons receive their infamous garments that we covered back in episode 28.
Yeah.
As we mentioned back in that episode, if any of our listeners have active Mormon relatives or friends, it's probably best to never bring up the subject of garments or the temple ceremonies if you wish that friendship to continue.
I think garments most of all. I think garments, like the temple ceremonies are one ring out from that, but at the center of the sensitivity nipple is garments.
I mean, you can bring up the temple ceremony, they just won't talk about it.
Yeah, they won't talk about it. And many ex-Mormons, even years after leaving the religion, find it hard to talk about.
Yeah.
So back in episode 53, we talked about Mike Norton, a.k.a. New Name Noah, who has made it his life's mission to infiltrate and record these ceremonies, which can be found on YouTube or his website, and they are indeed stranger and more boring than you probably think.
Yeah. They're boring. They're like not strange, but they're strange.
Yeah.
And then like you're like start to snooze, and if you snooze at the wrong moment, you're gonna miss like the really strange that just pops out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of non-Mormons probably assume that it's like a scene from the Temple of Doom in there.
Right, exactly.
And it's more like a scene at the DMV, like with people wearing baker's outfits.
Right.
Yeah. It's very baffling.
It is very baffling. Although they just barely announced that they're changing the baker's outfits. Did you see that?
Oh no, I didn't see
just
that.
a little
Yeah,
bit.
they're going gluten free.
Yeah, it's very goofy.
Only Mormons in good standing have seen all of the rituals, and I count myself among them. But one of the strangest is paradoxically one that nearly every ex-Mormon has experienced, no matter how early they managed to escape, like you two.
Yep.
Because it's kind of the entry-level ceremony that kids as early as 12 are allowed to perform. I'm talking, of course, about baptisms for the dead.
Yeah. Which is one of those things that like some people know about the Mormon Church and they think, what could that be? And some people don't. And there's a lot of misinformation about it.
Yeah. So let's clear it up.
Yeah, please.
This ritual, and especially how it is performed by modern retail corporate Mormonism, is so fucking strange that I'll wager that most of our ex-Mo listeners have never fully processed it completely. So to all of you, trigger warning.
Point of order.
And just
I think this is wholesale Mormonism.
And I'll second that, Doug. That I don't know that I've even fully processed it. And we might talk about this, but it's because when I did it as a teenager, we went at like 3:30 or 4 in the morning.
Yeah, that's right.
And the whole thing is like hallucination.
Yeah,
Like the times I did it, it's hallucinatory.
Yeah,
that's some gonzo weirdo shit.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember. We always did it very, very early in the morning.
Hunter S. Thompson nonsense.
Way before school, and it was always in the winter for some reason.
No, I did it like mid-afternoon. I was apparently in one of the good wards.
Oh, wow.
You guys suck.
Yeah, I guess so. Just a little background before we dive in. Mormons believe that every person in the world, living or dead, must have the temple rituals performed on their behalf. These rituals include baptism, confirmation, anointing, the endowment, and sealing to a spouse. This belief that rituals must be performed for the dead stemmed from one very weird verse in the New Testament, 1 Corinthians 15:29, which reads, "Else what shall they do that are baptized for the dead, if the dead rise not at all?" This is the only reference in the entirety of the Bible to baptisms or rituals for the dead.
I didn't realize that it was in the Bible.
Yeah, it's just one very out-of-place verse.
Except that, that means that all of the other Christians are just ignoring that verse, because that verse is it's very clear that there are baptisms for the dead in the Bible.
When I was a missionary,
shocked about that.
Yeah, when I was a missionary, I used that verse a lot because that was what criticism is like. What's this baptism for this? It's in the Bible. It is in the Bible.
But is that Corinthians verse an admonition to baptize for the dead, or is it just some offhand, typically weird Bible throwaway?
Apparently, some very early Christian sects did practice baptisms for the dead, but it was really only for loved ones that had died before having the chance. So, like brothers and sisters, or fathers and mothers. And it was like, okay, I've found Jesus, so to speak. I'm going to get baptized for my dad who died last year.
He's over there. I found Jesus.
Yeah.
This is
so people did do it, and the practice was eventually banned by every Christian sect in the 4th century.
Interesting.
But Joseph Smith latched onto it like it was a girl on the eve of turning 15. And Mormons have made this practice a central tenet of their faith.
Yeah.
There were some other sects that practiced this, most notably the Mandeans of Iraq. Mandalorians. This is the way.
But they just sunk because they couldn't take all their shit off, so they stopped doing it.
But currently, it is pretty much just the Mormons and their offshoots that engage in this ritual. No other religion.
Just from an anthropological perspective, for Nevermo listeners, it's important to point out that Mormonism is technically categorized in what's called primitive Christianity, which is a revival of all the things in the Old Testament shit, like polygamy. That is, not every religion practices that, but Mormonism is a primitive Christian religion.
Right.
Sorry.
And this explains why Mormons have been so into genealogy. For those who don't know, there are vaults dug into the granite mountains of Big Cottonwood Canyon, just east of where Uncle Dan and I are sitting, containing the largest genealogical record in the world. And indeed, Ancestry.com, among many other such companies, were founded by Mormons.
And then when they weren't run by Mormons, they made deals with Mormons
to access
with Mormonism just so
right.
that they could access their history.
And the Mormons they're not secret about this. They're trying to add to this database, and the only way you can do that is by being upfront about their genealogy.
Right.
So again, just to emphasize, Mormons are encouraged to do extensive genealogical research on their families and others, submit these records to the church, which adds to their database, and then these names are submitted to temples where Mormons are encouraged to spend several hours a month performing the various ceremonies for random dead people. So that's kind of where we are. There have been an estimated 107 billion people that have ever lived, so this effort is monumental, to say the least. In fact, Mormons believe that when Christ returns, most of what they'll be doing for his 1,000-year reign is proxy temple work.
We're going to need a bigger vault.
This practice has led to several controversies over the years because Mormons believe that these rituals must be performed for all people who've ever lived. This includes serial killers and their victims, rapists and their victims, and even Nazis and their victims. So you could see, say, Jewish groups not loving the idea that some random religion in the Western U.S. is dishonoring their ancestors' name and then adding genocide to injury by baptizing Hitler. Yes, Hitler, in the same font.
Yeah.
Hitler has been baptized for the dead by the Mormon Church.
Yeah.
Of course
The records show that Hitler was baptized on the same day in the same temple as Anne Frank.
Fuck off.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing, and I've seen several things about this. Hitler was baptized for several times.
Yes.
Because back in the day, they didn't keep great records. They didn't know how to, they didn't have computer databases and whatever.
Yeah.
So anybody who wanted to just get fancy, like anyone famous, somebody who wanted to feel important would go in and be like, I want to do it for Leonardo da Vinci. And then they'd go and they'd just do it because they could.
God damn. So, and the church has gotten in trouble and has been sued and has backed away, but always, this is going on inside a secret building. They're going to do what they're going to do.
What's amazing to me is that, yes, a whole lot of Jews objected very vehemently to the idea that Mormons were essentially baptizing their, Holocaust murdered ancestors into Mormonism away from Judaism.
Essentially, martyrs for the faith. These people died because of their Jewishness.
Which
Right.
I get that's offensive. I get why that would be offensive.
Yeah.
Even though, like, the story that the Mormons tell is that no, we're just offering this to them, and then in the afterlife they
can choose. Yeah.
whether or not. But like, the objection almost validates the practice.
Right.
Like, you don't believe in their dumb magic, Jews. You can just let them do whatever they want, because they can't actually change the religion of your ancestor in the afterlife.
I think it's just kind of slapping my ancestor's name out of your dumb mouth.
Yeah,
Like,
you're right.
You know what I mean? But you're right. Yeah.
There is just something funny about objecting to a group of weirdos
Performing a silly ritual.
Performing a silly ritual about your.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It means nothing in a weird way, but it means a lot to the survivors.
Right.
And it's a pointless level of shitty disrespect
Yeah.
that a properly functioning morality would be incapable of doing.
Right.
You know?
So if you would like the church's official view on this practice, there is a helpful 1 minute and 22-second video on YouTube from the church with an explanation.
1 minute, 22 seconds.
1 minute, 20 seconds. And I think it's worth pointing out that the video is hosted by a black woman.
Oh.
Only because that's fucking insane.
Right.
But hey.
Because they have one.
Right, exactly.
They're proving that they've got one.
Yeah.
As we will discuss the other temple, we'll discuss the other temple ceremonies at another time.
That poor black woman, she was baptized and then marched directly into a television studio.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Where she was forced to do
still wet.
600 hours of PR.
No, it's true. She does host a whole bunch of them. It's crazy.
Oh, does she?
Yeah. But today, let's walk listeners through the typical Mormon experience of being baptized for the dead. It starts off, of course, with your bishop's interview that I subjected Uncle Dan to in episode 89.
Yes.
If you are found worthy and or your sexual indiscretions are not sufficiently titillating enough for your bishop, you are issued a temple recommend, which is basically a membership card to the world's least useful club. And typically, as for at least Mark and I, very early in the morning, you headed to your local temple, and for us, this was, of course, the OG Salt Lake Temple. You flash your card, which, according to New Name Noah and other more recent Mormon refugees, is now a mag card that can be scanned. This gets you entry into...
Sorry, Doug, I didn't have a card because I was like 14.
Yeah, when you're doing
you may be
baptisms for
right.
the dead, you don't need
You don't have the full-fledged card yet.
you don't
That's
need
right.
the recommend. You just need to be.
Cody,
And you
fix
ca-
this.
You go into a side door. Like you go into
Yeah,
a
you
side
don't go
door.
into the main temple. Absolutely.
Yeah. You go into kind of a basement.
Yep, and it gets you into the part of the temple where the font is, where very, very old people in ill-fitting white suits and dresses guide you to the locker room.
Scowl at you. Yeah.
Yeah. Here you are issued your baptismal clothes, which have technical sizes, but are ill-fitting themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
They are basically very thick, white, one-piece jumpsuits made of bulletproof polyester. They need to be thick enough so that when dunked repeatedly, your nips and naughty bits cannot be seen.
That's right.
Which they still can because they're not taking into account the cling factor.
Yeah,
Just the see-through factor.
exactly.
And point of order, I was issued underwear for this event, which was tighty-whities that had clearly been worn by many other men before me and then laundered in whatever facility they have, which creeped me out so much more than the actual... Like, the actual ceremony was one thing, but having to wear used underwear was alarming.
Yeah, I got underwear too, as I recall.
So once you're in your jumpsuit, you stuff all your clothes and belongings into a locker, complete with giant key and giant clothespin that you pin to your jumpsuit. And
Right.
yes, it's very weird that you need to have a locked locker in the temple, but there you go.
Yeah.
And then you enter the baptismal font room. Now, more modern temples have a simple room with a pretty nondescript font, think large hot tub, in the middle. But some early temples, including the Salt Lake Temple, have the giant round font placed on the back of 12 golden oxen.
Yeah.
And yes, it's as strange as it sounds.
That's something cults definitely don't do. Dunk teenagers into a bowl of symbolic water on the back of 12 golden oxen is not a cult thing.
Nothing strange about that at all.
Nope.
All right, you take your place in line and wait your turn. When it's finally your time, you enter the font. Waiting for you is the baptizer, always a man, and two witnesses sitting above the font looking down at you. And as we recently discussed, the church is starting to allow the ladies to be witnesses. So.
Gross. No, it doesn't count. I don't believe in that.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah.
The baptizer then takes your right wrist in his left hand. You place your left hand on on his left forearm. He raises his right arm to the square, and we are ready to begin. Did I mention the computer screen? No? Oh, yeah. There is a computer screen behind a plastic splash-proof shield, which will display the baptismal prayer, which must be said perfectly, and the name of the person you are being baptized for. He then intones the following prayer, and I am not making this up, at the speed of a cattle auctioneer.
Yeah.
Quote, brother or sister, your name here, having been commissioned of Jesus Christ, I baptize you for and in behalf of, dead person's name here, who is dead, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
Splash.
Yep. He then pushes your right hand toward your face so you can plug your nose. Trust me, you're going to want to plug your nose.
Yeah.
Places his right hand on your back and dunks you. Now, because this is a numbers game, and because any dunking that does not result in complete immersion must be repeated, this dude is going to make sure you go fully underwater.
Yeah.
Once dunked, you are brought up out of the water, and before the water has drained out of your eyes and ears, he is most of the way through the next prayer.
Yep.
And down you go. Depending on how many people are there that day, you can be dunked in excess of 30 times in rapid succession.
Totally.
Now, for obvious reasons, this lukewarm water is heavily chlorinated.
Yeah.
And by baptism 25 or so, your eyes hurt, you're gasping for breath, you can't see your assailant anymore, nor the witnesses.
All your hair is burned off.
Right? You can't see the screen, the oxen, or the end of this ordeal, so you just keep your eyes closed and try to get enough air in.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
You're so right. I'm just going to sort of echo what you're saying by saying that my experience was, and for whatever reason, I was there on random Latino Day.
I was there for one of those too.
And none of my guys had a surname.
Yes.
So it was like, I baptize you for in the name of Jose. Amen. Splash. I baptize
Jose?
you for in the name of Jose. Amen. Splash.
I had
for in
the
name of
exact same experience.
which Jose?
Well,
I baptize you for in the name of everybody named Jose. How about that?
Wow.
Let's save some time, bitches. Come on.
Jose.
And you know what? You know what happens at the end of all that dunking and that hallucinatory kind of chlorine gas poisoning and the big BYU linebacker dunking you is if you drown, you are not a witch. Yeah. And by the way, I still, and I knew this at the time because I was kind of interested in the Holocaust as a young man, and this is going to be kind of a theme for today's show. The names I definitely remember being baptized for were Eastern European Jews.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I'm near certain I was probably baptized for Holocaust victims.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what a beautiful gift you've given them, Mark.
What a beautiful memory.
When it's finally over, and all Exmo listeners will confirm this, you are exhausted and, at least in my case, a bit traumatized. As you exit the font, your jumpsuit now weighs more than you do.
Yeah.
So you slog your way back to the locker room. There you have the opportunity to rinse off all the chlorine and urine you have been subjected to with church-approved industrial shampoo. Now, there is a chute for your jumpsuit, and let me just give you a little advice. Take the key pin off your jumpsuit before you throw it in. Trust me.
You were just naked?
There is nothing quite as humiliating as a 13-year-old naked boy trying to find a random senior citizen in the hallway of God's house.
Yes.
It has to happen more than once, but that was awful.
Oh, my God.
fully.
I'm so happy that happened to
And
you.
here's the other strange thing about it is as I recall, you guys, it was you were not supposed to speak, and the ordeal took a long time. Like I recall there was a line for boys and a line for girls, and we alternated.
Yep, that's right.
And you know, I'm standing there with like these guys in my neighborhood, and it seemed like it took more than an hour to get from the door into the court of Baal down to the, you know, into the water. And the whole time you're just standing there silently listening to all this splash. It was super eerie. Like,
It's
really
very weird.
Off-putting experience.
And to be clear, you're with all of the kids in your ward.
Typically,
So usually you know everybody in the room.
Yeah.
The guy that is baptizing you is probably from your ward too.
Sometimes, yeah.
And probably a creep also.
So you're showered, you've gotten dressed again, but you are not done yet. The other half of this ritual is the confirmation. Mormons believe that this is a two-part ritual. There is the baptism for the remission of sins, and then the laying on of hands to confirm your membership and grant you the gift of the Holy Ghost. So,
Yay.
with your hair still wet and your eyes still hurting, you are guided to a tiny room, really not much bigger than a bathroom stall, where three men, always men, are waiting for you. They have a similar computer screen with the confirmation prayer and the name of the dead person. You sit in front of them, and all three of them place their hands on your head, and with the same auctioneer cadence, intone the following prayer. Brother or sister, your name here, in the name of Jesus Christ, we lay our hands upon your head for and in behalf of, dead person's name here, who is dead, and confirm you a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and say unto you, receive the Holy Ghost. Amen.
And Frank.
Yeah, right. And then they lift their hands inches off your head and then place them back down again.
Right.
And do it all over again. Like I said, they can do this in excess of 30 times. Now,
And it's theoretically all the same people that you were just baptized.
I tried to find that out if they're just running the database through all these rituals.
It probably doesn't matter. It probably it's only that you're male or female. I would bet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because that's super important.
Yeah.
now,
What if a man got baptized
You
for
don't want
a
to
woman?
misgender a
Disqualification.
non-existent ghost.
right? Now, a human hand all by itself does not weigh very much, but 6 of them coming down on your head 30 times in a row can leave you with a bit of a stiff neck.
It's true.
And there you go. You have now been baptized and confirmed for the dead, and you can head off to Denny's for breakfast.
It's such a goofy thing. Mark, I want you to tell me if this was your experience, because I have friends, gay friends, who went. Now, when I went, it was all boys. I don't remember there being girls there.
Yeah, you would have your own locker room, and you'd come in out of a separate entrance.
Yeah, I remember a line of each.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But you typically, like the deacon's quorum would go,
Right.
but if the Maya maids went, they would go by them, separately.
Yeah. So my gay friend was telling me the story about like this being the most horrifying thing to him because he was seeing the outline of everybody's dick under their clingy clothes.
Oh, no.
And was desperately scared he was going to get a boner while he was
baby.
participating in this very sacred ceremony.
Christ.
Well, you could see, and for any young gay men out there who are going to go through this ordeal, you could just say the Holy Ghost has come upon you.
Yeah, exactly. And you're going to return the favor.
You're sprung. You're sprung with the presence of the Holy Ghost.
Yeah.
So they'll buy that.
It's such a weird thing to go through, but I will say, as pious as I was as a young man, I felt the Spirit. It was so important to me, and I was
so strange.
I felt so lucky to be able to do it, and I was just. The hymns were playing in the background, and it was just so spiritual.
So remember, folks out there, when you click on Ancestry.com, you are whether you know it or not participating in this very strange ritual.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Well,
It's a hell of a thing.
let's leave this one behind, eh?
All right, let's move on.
Hey, fellas.
Hey-yo.
Listen.
Word up.
We three put time and effort. I know it doesn't sound like it to our listeners at home, but we put in actually quite a bit of time and effort. We make our time in from our busy schedules.
Yep.
To do this program every week. This little program that we do.
Yeah.
And some people actually catch on to that fact and think, hey, I should give them some money. So that's what they do. They go to they go to howtoheretic.com and they click on the thing. It takes them to the Patreon, and then they sign up at whatever level makes them happiest. So we got some folks to thank this week. So we'll do that. So thanks go to Rob, Doug, not you, Doug, this Doug. And
Well, thanks, Doug.
Hey, someone should thank me. I carry this motherfucking show.
Doug is
Doug is-
thanking you.
Doug is thanking you, Doug.
monetarily.
Thanks, Doug.
Yeah.
And also thanks go from us to Matthew and someone calling themselves Sin Eater, which I like.
Sin Eater.
We may have to
Yes.
do something about sin eaters at some point.
Yeah.
Did we do
Well,
that?
we did a bit about sin eating. So.
We did.
Yeah.
Eating sin, it's delicious and nutritious.
Yeah.
And Sin Eater is one of our new patrons, and we love our patrons
Indeed.
more than we love other people.
Yeah.
Our love is for sale.
Yeah,
It is for sale. And did the Supreme Court determined in Citizens United, I believe, that money is speech, and the Supreme Court of the How To Heretic has determined that money is love. That's right. So love us with money, love us all you can.
Yeah.
And
And
then
also, you can love
also
us.
stars.
You can love us by plucking stars from the firmament and giving them
5 at a time.
5 at a time only on any of your various podcast listening platforms.
Yes,
or
and throw them at us
podforms.
like shuriken. Assault us with 5 stars and money, and we'll love you back somehow. Brrr, let's move on.
Uncle Dan,
Hey, yes, sir.
we are, as advertised, atheists,
Yes,
and I don't want to be a Nazi about anything, but you know,
Well, I don't know if that would be a Nazi or not. I'm very, here's the thing. I have heard many a right-wing pundit tell me how my theology, or lack thereof, leads to Nazism.
yep.
Inevitably.
Yeah, without fail.
Yeah.
That is the end of the road for me. And then I've been confused because that's not what I thought Nazis were. And then I said, hey, what about you, Uncle Mark? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think those right-wing pundits are right, that you're sitting in your dorm room in college, and you read River Out of Eden by Dawkins, and you think, hey, I might be an atheist, and boom, all of a sudden you are sitting on top of a Panzer on your way to Warsaw. Yeah. So, fellas, we 3 have been atheists for some time, right? Quite a bit on our own, but cumulatively, I reckon it's about 2,488.6 Scaramucci's, which, as we all know, is a period of 11 ignominious days, which pencils out to about 75 cumulative years of our atheism. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Subtract those 75 years from the current 2020, and what do you get? 1945. And what wrapped up in 1945? Why, a little studied fracas called World War Part II. And lest you think this is a coincidence, which it surely cannot be, it is in fact relevant to today's topic. For if you are a baby atheist, or even one as old as we 3 in aggregate or individually, you have likely heard, like Dan, some religious apologists toss out a certain ahistorical World War II history nugget in an attempt to compare you to one of history's greatest evils. And that nugget is, the Nazis were atheists. So,
yeah.
You are like unto a Nazi. Now go please and blow your evil Nazi atheist brains out the end. So,
Indeed.
What is one to make of this slanderous claim? Were the fascist National Socialists who seized Germany and eventually brought most of Europe to total ruin in a little more than a decade atheists? There's a short answer and a bit of a longer examination to get there, but the short answer is definitively no.
Correct.
No, they were not atheists by even the most tortured definition of the term, not even a little. Now, before we dive into the longer examination, let me start by saying this segment is not a blanket defense of atheism in thought or practice. As anyone with an internet connection can attest, there is no shortage of awful shitbag atheists out there, like there is no shortage of terrible Christian shitbags online. And usually, coupled with your Christian aunt's Facebook broadside that the Nazis were atheists just like you, are names like Stalin and Pol Pot, both of whom, in addition to being League of Champions genocidal mass murderers, were indeed atheists. So,
it's
2
true.
points to you, crazy Christian auntie. And I may make this a 2-parter where we do a dive into cults of personality and 20th century political religions, where I think I can ably demonstrate that replacing the supernatural God with that an agrarian population had been taught to grovel before with a living man God who is actually far more dangerous and unquestionable is not really what any of us would describe as, air quotes, atheism, nor the application of the skeptical method. But until then, I want to talk about your aunt's Nazis were atheists canard because, well, it's not fucking true. So, in the pre-war years, Germany was a very religious country. We'll ignore for a moment that the almost dreamlike liberalism of Weimar Berlin in the late 20s and early 30s as the odd anomaly that it sadly was. We can talk about it at length another time. That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, that's fun.
But Germany had long been divided between the extremely conservative Catholicism of Bavaria and the South generally, and the deeply anti-Semitic Protestantism of the North and the East. Let's not forget, Martin Luther was a native son of German soil, and in addition to being the original protester that put the protest in Protestantism, he was a white-hot Jew hater who put quill to paper to ink out a 65,000-word screed in 1543 titled lovingly, "On the Jews and Their Lies."
Yeah.
So he was the spiritual father.
It was sort of the prequel to the Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
That's not true. That's very much true. So he was the spiritual father of about half the country. In the late 19th and early 20th century, Germany, like any other Western country, was also enthralled with the esoteric movement, a weird bunch of spiritualists, neo-pagans, and weirdos that included subjects we've covered like Helena Blavatsky, Aleister Crowley, and Russia's greatest love machine, Grigory Rasputin. Some Germans, profoundly traumatized by the horrors of the First World War and the shock of suddenly having lost it and the economic catastrophes that followed, found the ossified institutions of Christianity a bit wanting in an age of alienating, mechanized horror, and looked for a more ancient era from which to reconstruct their shattered national identity, which they found via a Volkisch, meaning kind of folkloric, philosophy cooked up by a guy called Guido von List, which is the most suspicious name I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Most suspicious person ever.
Yeah.
And his philosophy was known as Ariosophy, which is basically the study of ancient, superior wisdom of the Aryan race. Basically, it was a callback to a heroic Teutonic age that borrowed heavily from the Norse mythology, and in short, never really happened. So, concurrently, after a series of unfortunate events that aren't really germane to this discussion, a failed watercolorist and World War I veteran named Adolf was coming very close to power in the fractious German political system. So, let's talk about the Führer himself and his alleged atheism for just a tick. There's a rumor that Hitler was Jewish, via a tenuous link to a possibly Jewish grandfather, but as neither of his grandfathers can be conclusively identified, this is not actually verifiable. He was, however, baptized, raised, and confirmed a Catholic, a blessing he maintained through life and beyond death. While associates say they never saw him take communion after he left home at 18, he never openly renounced his Catholicism, nor was he ever, even to this day, excommunicated. In fact, only one Nazi with a name history remembers at all was excommunicated, propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels, and that was for the grievous sin of having married a divorced Protestant. Some Catholic apologists online try to claim there was a blanket excommunication of the Nazis. This is a total fabrication. It never happened.
Right.
Hitler, Himmler, Eichmann, Hess all remained Catholics in good standing as far as the Vatican is concerned. Now, as many of you know, Hitler was not a man of few words, and in fact, basically never shut the fuck up.
Right.
If Europe's most powerful man, and a god in his own estimation, was an atheist, he had more than 20 years of his own printed words and endless recordings to say so. He never did. Not once. And beyond that, he proclaimed himself a Christian and an admirer of Jesus. Side note, that's going to get really complicated in just a minute.
Yeah.
Many, many times. Not only in loads of broadcast speeches, but also
Sorry,
in his five...
I do have one point of order, Mark. I'm sorry to
Yes.
interrupt you, but I just realized that you had said earlier that he was a Catholic.
Yes.
All the way through. I do want to point out he is a Mormon now. I just wanted to point that out.
Yes.
If he accepts it.
That's right.
Yeah. Clearly
Anyway,
he's
sorry,
accepted it.
Keep going.
Yes,
with
thank you,
all of
Dan.
that stuff.
Thank you for that very, very critical correction. And beyond that, and another time,
The Nazi campaign was not so successful.
another time, we need to talk about the very interesting relationship between Mormonism and Nazism, because it's fascinating. There's a brilliant book about it. I'll discuss that another time. But anyway, so he had, even in his 500-page Cry from the Wilderness, Mein Kampf, he declared himself a Christian, and of course, Mein Kampf directly translates as my Kampf. No,
It does. Your German is perfection.
it means my struggle. So here are just a few examples of Hitler declaring his deeply held atheism. Quote, "Besides that, I believe one thing. There is a Lord God, and this Lord God creates the people." Another quote, "We were convinced that the people need and require this faith. We have therefore undertaken the fight against the atheist movement, and not merely with a few theoretical declarations, we have stamped it out." Another quote, "My feelings as a Christian points me to my Lord and Savior as a fighter. It points me to the man who once in loneliness, surrounded by few followers, recognized these Jews for what they were and summoned men to fight against them, and who, God's truth, was greatest not as a sufferer, but as a fighter. In boundless love, as a Christian and as a man, I read through the passages which tells us how the Lord at last rose in his might and seized the scourge to drive out of the temple the brood of vipers and adders. How terrific was his fight for the world against the Jewish poison. Today, after 2,000 years, with deepest emotion, I recognize more profoundly than ever before the fact that it was for this that he had to shed his blood upon the cross. As a Christian, I have no duty to allow myself to be cheated, but I have the duty to be a fighter for truth and justice, for as a Christian, I have also a duty to my own people." You may have noticed a theme, that theme being Hitler declaring himself a Christian. Hitler once again, "The greatness of Christianity did not arise from attempts to make compromises with those philosophical opinions of the ancient world, which had some resemblance to its own doctrine, but in the unrelenting and fanatical proclamation and defense of its own teaching." That's from Mein Kampf. And lastly, his, meaning the Jews, life is of this world only, and his mentality is as foreign to the true spirit of Christianity as his character was foreign to the great founder of this new creed 2,000 years ago. And the founder of Christianity made no secret, indeed, of his estimation of the Jewish people. When he found it necessary, he drove these enemies of the human race out of the temple of God, because then, as always, they used religion as a means for advancing their commercial interests. But at that time, Christ was nailed to the cross for his attitude towards the Jews. Guys, at any point did you hear Hitler, as ably voiced by me, say he and his Reich was atheist?
I didn't.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Didn't catch that one.
And I would just point out that the term "as a Christian"
Yes.
is as big a linguistic red flag as "I'm not a racist, but..."
Exactly. So, yeah, he said the very opposite, in point of fact, of
Yeah.
his Reich was atheist. If you listened, think of it this way, if you listened to all of my over 100 segments on this show and came to the conclusion that I'm a practicing Southern Baptist, you could, I suppose, examine the collected words of Adolf Hitler and conclude he was an atheist, but in both cases you would be stupefyingly wrong. In fact,
Right.
Hitler and his movement's biggest issue with the Bible was that it was too, Jewy.
It was pretty Jewy.
It's pretty
Like,
Jewy.
The whole first half of it was all Jewy, Jew.
But it's the best half, in my opinion. But anyway, as some listeners may know, Germany is not actually mentioned in the Bible. And
What?
for the belligerent forces of the master race gearing up for world domination, this was a problem. So, at Hitler's direction, the Bible was reconstructed so as to be a better weapon in the Reich's hands. The Old Testament, the Gospel of Matthew, and the Pauline epistles were all removed. This was in the pursuit of what the Nazi Party program of 1920 called, air quotes, positive Christianity. Here's point.
Oh, they were good at messaging back in the day.
Yeah, it's pretty progressive, right? Here's point 24 from the 1920 Nazi Party program. This is very interesting. We demand freedom of religion for all religious denominations within the state, so long as they do not endanger its existence or oppose the moral senses of the Germanic race. The party as such advocates the standpoint of a positive Christianity without binding itself confessionally to any one denomination. It combats the Jewish materialistic spirit within and around us and is convinced that a lasting recovery of our nation can only succeed from within that framework. So, all positive Christianity means is a Christian canon and history cleansed of the Jews.
Yeah.
A very high-ranking and influential Nazi, guy named Alfred, this is his real last name, Rosenberg, fancied himself a theologian and was the author of the second most influential book on Nazi Germany at the time, The Myth of the 20th Century. In it, he wrote...
that one didn't even exist.
Yeah. In it, he wrote, that St. Paul was responsible for the destruction of classical Greek and Roman values. The doctrine of hell stifled the glorious Aryan spirit. The original sin and grace, that original sin and grace were Eastern and Jewish ideas that corrupted the pure Nordic blood. That the Old Testament must be discarded and replaced with the fables and legends of the Nordic people. And remember when I said Hitler's admiration of Jesus was going to get complicated? Rosenberg also wrote that the Judean itinerant rabbi with the Jewish name and all the Jewish friends was not actually a Jew at all, but some kind of one-off Aryan immigrant who had all white blood.
Can I just point out? Can I just jump in here with a note on the word Aryan? Because when I researched that word for a totally other thing, I was shocked to learn that it's an Indian Iranian word. It's from the Indus region of the world and has nothing to do with white folks whatsoever. It was a designation of Indian folks. And then there was a misapprehension by 20th century quote-unquote scholars about or probably 19th century scholars, about who they were.
Yes.
And they developed this sort of mythology of white guys going around founding all of the major civilizations in the world and then going back to the north of Germany and Europe.
And next you're going to tell me that Caucasian has nothing to do with my penis.
Actually, it is the Caucasus Mountains of Asia Minor, which is not white people either.
Right.
But you're right. Yeah, the Nazi theory was that all the great civilizations of the world, including those of India, were founded by immigrants from the north.
Right.
By a German diaspora.
Were you literally just getting to that, and I just jumped on?
No, but it's a good point because I didn't point out that Aryan is kind of a hot mess. So. So he thought they thought Jesus was a white guy, and not Jewish at all. Right. This idea is very much supported by any and all portraits of Jesus one might find in Mormon churches and temples to this very day.
That's a good point.
Another good Christian Nazi theologian, Dr. Ernst Bergman, concurred that indeed Jesus was as white as a Swiss milkmaid, and went even further, stating that the flabby Führer with one ball was himself the long prophesied return of the not Jewish Messiah.
Oh, yay!
Yay! So, pop quiz, guys. Please rate the preceding 5 paragraphs for their atheist content. If you answered 0, you are correct. There are other Nazi philosophers and theologians and politicians were most interested in redirecting the Christian canon and history to support their new political ideal of a wonderful word, Führerprinzip, basically meaning no law of God or man is above the will of the Führer, but even Führerprinzip never rejected the concept of God at all. And as many people know, the late Christopher Hitchens often went to pains to knock this Nazis were atheist bullshit into the ditch. He rightly points out that the Reich's first foreign treaty was with the Vatican, guaranteeing the safety of German Catholics and their freedom to worship, in addition to trusting a huge portion of elementary education in Germany to Catholic schools, so long as the Vatican didn't fuck with whatever Hitler might decide to do with his new plaything called Europe. Hardly something a dictatorial political atheist would permit, leaving the education of millions of young Nazis to a church. Hitchens also notes that every belt buckle worn by every Nazi soldier was inscribed with God mit uns. Yep. God is with us. This, to my knowledge, is not among the top 100 atheist slogans.
It sort of does hang on a different set of beliefs.
It does.
Right. The concept of God is with us kind of implies a belief in both us and
God.
Yeah.
It does kind of help my argument, doesn't it? So none of this is to say Hitler loved Catholicism as he found it. He was, in many cases, anti-clerical. He didn't have any patience for the very few meddling priests who, with great moral courage, spoke out against his daily increasing evils. They were sent to the camps, as were many hundreds of priests who just happened to have the bad luck of being from small towns in Poland and Eastern Europe, where they were among their community's most important authority figures and thus politically inconvenient. In all the important ways, Hitler was no different from the bulk of history's despotic strongmen. He arrived at a position of immense power and looked around at the tools at his disposal to maintain and increase it. Both the Catholic and Protestant churches were massive, influential, long-established instruments of right-wing power in Germany. You'd have to be crazy to fight them rather than co-opt them into your malevolence. And after all, both churches shared Hitler's prime twin agendas, anti-communism and anti-Semitism.
Yep.
If Hitler was a closet atheist, and again, there is nothing to substantiate that, he'd be a fool not to join hands with his natural allies. So, even if Hitler was totally cynically using religion as an animating force to unite and motivate his masses towards civilizational Armageddon, does that make Nazi Germany in any way atheist? Again, not even a little.
Nope.
What is the functional difference between a real religion and a fake one if masses of otherwise sane people are willing to kill or die under its banner? None. There is no difference, and if you argue all religions are fake or real, or all are real, it doesn't matter at all either. Yep. So I touched on one other little fact about Germany between the wars earlier in my bit, pardon me, and that was the emergence of German neo-paganism. Anyone familiar with the madly long, overly dramatic works of Richard Wagner will know about this romantic Teutonic operatic, his Teutonic operatic works about the Norse gods and the Valkyries. Hitler adored Wagner to the point of worship, and his Reich found a new energy in Wagner's pastiche of Northern European myths, especially the epic Norse poems called Edda. A nation humiliated by the ruin of the First World War required a more robust mythos to restore its wounded pride, and looking through the mists of a heroic past provided that. None of Hitler's inner circle took this call to winged harpies and horn-helmeted warriors as seriously as the diabolically evil Heinrich Himmler, one of the most powerful men in the Reich and the architect of the Holocaust. Our friend Heinrich said of non-believers, "We believe in a God Almighty who stands above us. He has created the earth, the fatherland, and the Volk, and he has sent us the Führer. Any human being who does not believe in God should be considered arrogant, megalomaniacal, and stupid, and thus not suited for the SS." So it's good to have standards.
Yeah,
Right.
I am a little arrogant and definitely not suited for the SS. So I feel like he's got like 2 out of 3 on that one.
Yeah, I got to lose some weight if I'm going to get into those jodhpurs. So, while obviously not even a tiny bit atheist, Himmler's concept of God was a complicated one. He is the founder of what would later be called esoteric Hitlerism, essentially inserting Hitler into a variety of Christian, classical, and Norse myths and prophecies, and in so doing elevating him to a god. He also believed in reincarnation and seems to have been a for-real pantheist, revering your Odins, your Thors, your Yahwehs, your Saturns, etc. Most people know that lots of neo-pagan symbolism, from the swastika to the runic Sieg lightning bolts of the SS, had ancient pre-Christian roots. And while Nazi occultism is super fun grist for movies like Hellboy, most historians sadly downplay the importance of Himmler's neo-paganism for much other than an outer veneer of the Third Reich. Nazism was, if anything, a fucked up, retro-engineered, even more racist jumble of Jew-free Christianity. So, was Nazi Germany's relationship to religion a hot mess? Abso-fucking-lutely. Was it atheist? Fuck no. And furthermore, if one looks at atheism and skepticism as an attempt to view the world through a rational lens of reason and consciousness, it was not an overabundance of reason and clear thought that, to paraphrase the great Werner Herzog, caused 1/3 of Germany to kill another third while the last third watched.
Yeah.
It was very likely a meth-fueled confluence, and that's a true confluence of nationalism, carefully cultivated fear and hatred, a reverence for the Führer and the God that delivered him that did that. A weird hot mess does not equal atheism. A declared lack of belief in gods equals atheism.
Although atheism doesn't exclude weird hot messes. There's a lot of those.
No, totally, and we can talk about those at great length. But a hot mess of religion is not atheism.
Right.
Hitler being a bad or lapsed Catholic does not automatically make him an atheist. If he was, he would have said so. While there were anti-clerical movements and actions in the Reich, the concept of God and Germany's place in God's ordained order was never in question, ever. But here's an interesting way to finish this. Since your auntie is such an authority on mass-murdering, democracy-crushing strongmen, You might ask her about her feelings toward all of the 20th century's overtly Christian dictatorships, like Franco's Spain, Salazar's Portugal, Mussolini's Italy, of course, Metaxa's Greece, Juan and Evita Perón's Argentina, Pinochet's Chile, Stroessner's Paraguay, the military junta of Brazil, Somoza's Nicaragua, the Duvalier's Haiti, very beloved of Mother Teresa, by the way, the Marcos's Philippines, Martinez's El Salvador, Noriega's Panama, Milosevic's Serbia, and Trujillo's Dominican Republic, to name just a few. And this discussion hasn't even touched on one of the 20th century's most nightmarishly, suicidally belligerent authoritarian regimes, Imperial Japan.
Yeah.
This religious, militaristic ethnocult committed atrocities on a mind-bending scale throughout Asia and the Pacific in the name of its sun god emperor and its divine right to rule over all other nations. But maybe that sort of thing is a little outside your Christian aunt's grasp of what counts as religion, since they weren't Christian. And while you're at it, you might ask your Christian aunt who she voted for if the specter of dictatorship keeps her up at night. So
Yeah.
you can with certainty tell your auntie and whomever else casually compares you to a Nazi that no, the Nazis were not atheists. As atheists, we have our own trash to take out with the hellscapes created by avowed atheists Stalin, Mao, and Pol Pot. And if time allows, as I said, I'll dig into those next week. And like I said earlier, show that reason and sanity were not really their brand. But Nazis ain't our trash to take out. That's for the Christians to do. So
That's right.
there you go, guys. In a nutshell, the answer is no.
Yeah. And everybody look for our upcoming How to Heretic poll on which televangelist here in the U.S. will eventually declare Donald Trump the return of Jesus Christ. That'll be...
That hasn't happened yet?
Yeah, well...
I think it's happened. I think
I'm
one
sure
of them
it has.
did. Yeah.
I think White or Jeffers has a... But here's the problem, Mark, and we talked about this earlier, and you were talking about this in your Woo segment, Uncle Dan, is that no matter how many times you beat this canard down, and no matter how effectively you do it, when you turn around, it will have grown back full.
Yeah.
They cannot walk away from this. And to your point, Uncle Mark, they can't even be nuanced and concede that some of history's worst dictators were atheists.
Yes.
But some of them were religious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
But
like-
the bulk of them were not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they would be wise to not engage in this at all, but they can only do so disingenuously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's that when you're kind of an ignoramus, everything you hate gets lumped into one pile, right?
Yeah.
So you're a communist, Nazi, fascist, anarcho-syndicalist. You know, it's like, no, those are all different things. They don't.
Right.
You're an idiot. Like there are bad atheist things. You can call me that, and
Yeah.
you've got a
Yeah.
point, right? But not a Nazi. That's it.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Uncle Mark. And don't worry, Scaramucci references still feel 100% relevant. So.
I'm sure they will again. Let's move on.
Well, friends, that's it for this week's show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email if you yourself know know a Nazi and want to contradict us. You can send it to howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or if you have a very special healing tuning fork, just hit that, dial our number, leave us a message at 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-884-6986. And you can also show me your very cool tuning fork on Twitter. I'm there at HowToHeretic.
And also a very special and heartfelt shout out to our patrons.
And a very special, heartfelt shout out to Cody Layton, who is very much an atheist and also not a Nazi.
That we know of.
And thanks to all of you crazy Nazi atheists for tuning in. We sure appreciate you.
Bye, friends.
Wiedersehen.